Happy 4th of July, folks. Today we celebrate America, the greatest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world, despite our ruling class doing everything short of lighting it on fire like a stolen Prius in San Francisco. Now, as fireworks light up the sky across the nation today, so do the contradictions of the modern left. The same people who call border enforcement fascism are now locking their doors because the sanctuary cities turned into squatter playgrounds. We're living in a moment where Democrats unironically think feelings outrank facts, criminals are the new heroes, and biology is considered hate speech. So buckle up, because in today's episode, we're celebrating America while also taking a look at the progressive paradox machine, starting with a very telling clip of Kamala Harris that reminds us just how big of a bullet this country dodged.
The United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story.
What?
Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations.
What?
Perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease.
Shh.
We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
Imagine if this chick were president today. Every press conference in the country would start with a mandatory struggle session where you have to confess your ancestors' sins before discussing infrastructure. Now, Kamala Harris's cartoonishly reductive take on American history, framing European exploration as a one-note saga of disease and theft, isn't just historically shallow, it's ideologically revealing. And this isn't about honoring Native communities, by the way. It's about weaponizing guilt to rewrite national identity. It reflects the left's ongoing obsession with framing America as irredeemably evil, hollowing out any shared history that might unify people across race, class, or culture. This kind of rhetoric plays well in elite institutions where moral outrage is currency, but it poisons the public square, teaching young people to view their nation not as something to steward, but something to dismantle. There's a reason this worldview dominates academia, HR departments, and media talking points. It replaces accountability with Marxist grievance, merit with victimhood, and patriotism with performative shame. And the irony, it's always delivered by people like Kamala Harris, who rose to the highest levels of power in the very country they claim is founded on evil. Now, since it's America's birthday, let's take a moment and fact-check Kamala Harris's historical revisionism into oblivion, shall we? Her claim that European explorers ushered in a wave of devastation by stealing land and spreading disease is a dishonest, cherry-picked caricature masquerading as truth. First off, the idea that disease was deliberately spread, like the popular myth of smallpox blankets, is wildly overstated. Germ theory didn't exist until the 19th century. And during the initial waves of exploration in the 15th and 16th centuries, no one understood how viruses spread. While there is one documented instance during the 1763 siege of Fort Pitt where British officers discussed giving blankets from a smallpox hospital to Native Americans, historians remain divided on whether it was carried out effectively or had any real impact. That being said, by that point, smallpox was already endemic in the region. The tragic epidemics that devastated Native populations were overwhelmingly unintentional and driven by contact, not conspiracy. But more importantly, Harris's moral fable ignores the reality of indigenous societies. Many tribes were fiercely warlike, often locked in brutal, ongoing conflict with one another long before Europeans ever arrived. They were not a monolithic group of peaceful caretakers, but a mosaic of nations that raided, conquered, displaced, and very often enslaved each other. Some holding up to 25% of their populations as slaves. Others practiced ritual torture, human sacrifice, and yes, even child sacrifice. The Aztecs were infamous for it, and even North American tribes engaged in scalping and mutilation of their enemies, sometimes European settlers, including women and children. Some tribes enslaved white Europeans as well. Most of these groups were nomadic, with no concept of fixed national borders or private land ownership in the Western legal sense, making the idea of land theft by today's standards historically incoherent. What Harris offers isn't education, it's ideology, crafted to delegitimize the founding of the United States by selectively framing history through a modern lens of Marxist guilt and grievance, something that the president of this country should never be doing. Anyway, since we looked at the bullet we dodged, might as well take a look at the bag of bones we dumped.
And we give thanks to our Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, the extraordinary President of the United States, Joe Biden!
Jesus.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Happy Independence Day!
What a difference a year makes. Last July 4th, Kamala Harris was awkwardly hailing Joe Biden as the extraordinary president while he responded like a confused mall Santa shouting, "Ho, ho, ho, happy Independence Day," a moment that perfectly captured the surreal, hollow theater of Democrat leadership. 1 year later, Biden's gone, Kamala's legacy is in the dumps, and Trump is back in the White House, not because America lurched too far to the right, but because the country finally woke up to the failure of the alternative. This moment last year wasn't just cringe, it was symbolic. The left had spent years treating patriotism as performative at best and shameful at worst, while elevating figures who could barely finish a sentence as moral visionaries. The result was a cultural regime built on make-believe, pretend leaders, pretend economics, pretend justice, pretend genders, pretend everything. But reality always wins, and now, with rising global chaos, collapsing cities, and a nation desperate for coherence, we're witnessing that same political elite, that mock tradition, fading into the twilight. And thank God for that. All that being said, if you think Democrats learned a single thing since they got whooped at the general election last year, well, you got another thing coming.
Today, on our Independence Day, I'm looking into whether or not Americans feel proud to be an American. And as it turns out, Democrats, their percentage who say they're proud to be an American has fallen through the floor. What are we talking about? Take a look here. Democrats' pride to be an American, extremely or very proud. In 2015, look at this. 4 out of 5 Democrats were extremely or very proud to be an American. That number has plummeted to just 36% now in 2025. Oh, this century has fallen by more than half since 2015 as Donald Trump has become, of course, president once again this year. Now, what is driving that decline? Well, a lot of it has to do with age. What are we talking about? Well, Generation Z Democrats, proud to be an American or not. Of course, Generation Z, born since 1997. Look at this. Only 24% of Generation Z Democrats are extremely or very proud to be an American. That is actually lower, Erica. That is lower than the percentage who say they have little or no pride to be an American at 32%. I just never thought I'd see these numbers based upon where we were a decade ago, but that's exactly where we are. Now, if Democrats have extremely less pride to be an American than they used to, what about Republicans? Well, this is where the trend line gets interesting, because with Republicans, there is no trend line. In fact, take a look here. Republicans' pride to be an American, extremely or very proud. In 2015, it was 90% back when Barack Obama was serving his second term. Now in Donald Trump's second term, it's basically the same percentage, 92%. So Republicans still are extremely or very proud to be an American. Democrats, on the other hand, have seen their numbers fall through the floor, led, of course, by the youngest generation, Generation Z.
Democrats hate America. It's never been more evident. This new poll isn't just a snapshot, it's a mirror reflecting the cultural rot that's taken hold of the left. In 2015, 80% of Democrats were proud to be American. Today, that number has cratered to just 36%, with Gen Z Democrats dragging it down to an abysmal 24%. This didn't happen by accident, by the way. It's the byproduct of an education system that teaches students to see America as irredeemably racist, media that profits off of that division, and an activist class that frames patriotism as bigotry. The left has built its entire identity around deconstructing this nation, tearing down national symbols, rewriting history, and replacing civic pride with moral self-flagellation. Meanwhile, Republican pride in America remains stable because it's rooted in principles, not feelings. Liberty, faith, self-governance. That contrast isn't just political, it's existential. One side sees America as the problem, the other sees it as a solution. And as long as the cultural machinery keeps rewarding victimhood over responsibility, don't expect that pride gap to close anytime soon. And in case you're wondering just how accurate that poll is, this is how Democrats are celebrating the 4th of July in New York City today. Wow.
Fuck the fourth. Fuck the fourth. Fuck the fourth. Fuck the fourth. America was built off stolen land. Y'all know that, right? America was built off stolen land.
That was built off migrants, migrant labor, migrant blood, migrant people, migrant culture that they sell back to us and profit off of. It's bullshit. Until everybody's free, no one's free.
Watching someone burn our flag always pisses me off. Not because it's illegal, but because it's cowardly. These aren't revolutionaries, by the way. They're spoiled brats, products of a culture that taught them America is something to resent rather than protect. When you see mobs in Washington Square Park chanting, "Fuck the fourth," and calling for a new flag, what you're really seeing is the result of decades of academic indoctrination, media gaslighting, and a political class that rewards Marxist grievance over gratitude. We keep hitting the same point because that's where all of this is coming from. That's the root. These are people who've never built anything, never defended anything, and yet feel entitled to destroy the very symbol that allows them to scream and screech in the streets without consequence. The irony, well, they're protesting on land they claim was stolen while demanding more from the system they say is oppressive. This isn't about justice, by the way. It's never been more evident. It's about erasing the idea of America itself and replacing it with a narrative of endless victimhood, or perhaps even, as AOC has suggested, a whole new communist system. And until we confront the institutions that keep producing this mindset, our schools, our universities, and our media, we're going to keep watching these bonfires of ignorance every 4th of July, unfortunately. Now, all that being said, to cleanse our palate, let's check in on one of my favorite 4th of July traditions, the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest, and one of my favorite dudes in the world, Joey Chestnut.
We're not going to get to the record, but 70 would be a remarkable feat. To achieve 70 again.
Watch him here in the last seconds. Joey's going to get it in. Boom.
4, 3, 2.
Wow.
Put down your hot dogs.
Such neat eating, too. The etiquette is just exemplary. Something to aspire to.
Yeah.
He's fairly neat.
Oh, my glory.
Compared to some of the others.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
this is an emotional
Incredible.
journey. I am
Incredible
emotionally
performance.
exhausted.
Joey Chestnut is a legend, and this is what America is all about, folks. Taking something ridiculous, competitive, and uniquely ours and turning it into a full-blown national tradition. Only in America can a guy become a household name by eating 70 hot dogs in under 10 minutes, with millions of people cheering him on like it's the Super Bowl. The greatness of America isn't just in our Constitution or our economy. It's our people. It's our bold, unfiltered, and free culture. From backyard barbecues to these hot dog eating contests, we celebrate the weird, the wild, and the wonderful, and it's beautiful to watch. And on this 4th of July, these kinds of celebrations remind us that no matter how chaotic things may get in our country, we still live in the greatest nation on earth. And in case you have any doubt in your heart or your mind of that reality, well, I got something for you.
In the proud spirit of America and in the proud spirit of our great country,
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
I love America, and I can say that today proudly. Even though at one point I was one of those people who got brainwashed into loathing this country and believing we were somehow lacking. But God pulled me out of that scarcity mindset and revealed just how deeply blessed this nation is. I'm unbelievably grateful to live in a place where I have the freedom to speak, worship, build, fail, try again, and live without asking permission from the government or a king. America is the only place on earth where you can come here legally with nothing, choose who you want to be and what you want to do, and actually become that person. Not because the government grants you the right to do that, but because God already did. This country was built on faith, resilience, and the belief in human dignity, a place where even the least among us are seen, heard, and valued. So much so, in fact, that our national compassion is constantly exploited by dishonest political actors who know the American heart is wired for grace. America is the only nation on earth founded on the belief that your rights come from God, not from men. And that government exists to protect those rights, not define them. That's what our Constitution is, a living contract, not with rulers, but with each other, grounded in the truth that there is no king, no tyrant, no bureaucracy greater than the one who made us. And as long as we walk with him, we will continue to grow, prosper, and overcome. That being said, I'm so unbelievably grateful that God chose for me to be born in this nation, but also to be raised in a country that was nothing like this, so I could truly understand what we have in America. I get to see America for what she truly is, the greatest, most miraculous nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And I will do everything I can to protect her from becoming just another broken, corrupt banana republic. All that being said, I hope you enjoy this day with your family and friends. Thank you to our troops, our veterans, our police officers, firefighters, and all the public servants who help make this country great. God bless all of you and your families, and God bless the United States of America. Happy 4th of July. Peace.